You're standing on that lot right now, aren't you? Keys in your hand, the salesman smiling, that truck gleaming under the lights, and it looks perfect. It always looks perfect. But I'm telling you, some of these trucks are the exact same ones I watched get dragged into my bay on a hook, transmission fluid dripping, owner white as a sheet when I told him the number. I've turned wrenches for over 30 years. I've seen the same makes, the same engines, the same model years come limping in again and again while other trucks roll past 200,000 miles without a whimper. So here's the truth. Nobody on that lot will tell you. There are 10 trucks I would flat out refuse to keep in my own garage going into 2026. Not because they look bad, because I've seen what they cost when they break. And one of them is probably the truck you were about to buy this weekend. Stick with me all the way, because at the very end, I'm going to hand you the one overlooked truck that quietly outlasts everything else on the road, the one almost nobody talks about, backed by a long-term dependability study most buyers never even hear the name of. Whether you're buying new, buying used, or you already own one of these, this is going to save you money and heartache. I promise you that. I remember the first time it really hit me. Younger guy, maybe 30, rolled in with a half ton he'd bought 3 weeks earlier. Proud as could be. 2 days later, that engine was ticking like a clock in a horror movie, and he was staring at a repair bill bigger than his down payment. That was the day I stopped trusting the shine and started trusting the scars. Let me show you the scars. Let's start with a truck everybody swears by. The half-ton pickup with the small vate that everybody calls bulletproof. For years, I heard it too. Bulletproof, bulletproof. And then I started pulling valve covers. I'm talking about the General Motors half-tons and SUVs running the 5.3-liter vate with what they call active fuel management. Roughly 2007 through 2014 is the danger zone, and it bled into the next generation too. On paper, it's genius. The engine shuts off 4 cylinders when you're cruising to save a little gas. In the real world, it's one of the most common oil-burning, lifter-eating designs I've ever had on my lift. Here's what happens. That system uses little collapsing lifters and a valve that dumps oil pressure to deactivate cylinders. Over time, the lifters fail. When one collapses, it can wipe the camshaft lobe right off. I've pulled these apart and found metal shavings glittering all through the oil like somebody poured glitter in the pan. And long before that, these engines start drinking oil. A quart every 750 miles is not unusual. I've had owners tell me they thought that was normal. It is not normal. You want the number? A lifter and camshaft job on one of these done right with the cylinder head work and all the gaskets runs you anywhere from $2,500 to over $4,000. I've written estimates north of $4,500 when the damage spread. And the worst part is the owner had no idea, because that check engine light doesn't always come on until the metal's already flowing. So what do? If you're looking at one of these, pop the hood and ask when the oil was last topped off, not changed, topped off. If they're adding oil between changes, walk, listen for a tick at cold start that fades. That tick is your wallet talking. If you want the same truck without the heartburn, look for the versions with the system deleted or the earlier 4.8 liter, which is the same family without that fuel-saving gremlin. The 4.8 is one of the toughest small blocks GM ever built, and almost nobody asks for it. Now, you might be thinking, fine, I'll just buy a Ford instead. Slow down, because the next one broke more hearts in my bay than any GM ever did. There's a Ford Vate that people still call a legend, and I've watched that legend strand more folks on the side of the road than I can count. The 5.4-liter Triton 3-valve found in the F-150 and Super Duty trucks from about 2004 through 2010. 2 problems, and both of them are brutal. Problem 1 is the spark plugs. On this engine, the factory used a 2-piece spark plug design that seizes into the aluminum head. When you go to change them, and you will have to, the plug snaps off and leaves half of itself welded inside the head. I've spent 3 hours on a single plug with special extraction tools, praying I don't drop debris into the cylinder. A full set on one of these can run you $800 to $1,600 in labor alone if they break, and that's before anything goes wrong. Problem 2 is worse. These engines use cam phasers, and they fail. When they do, You get a loud rattling knock at startup that sounds exactly like the engine is coming apart, because slowly it is the timing chains stretch, the phasers wear, and the whole timing system goes sloppy. A cam phaser and timing job on one of these is a $2,000 to $3,500 affair, sometimes more if the guide rails have chewed themselves up. Here's what the dealer won't say. This engine was in millions of trucks, so there are millions of used ones out there, priced to move, looking like a bargain. That low price is not kindness. It's the market telling you what those repairs cost. Check it yourself. Cold start that truck. If you hear a diesel-like rattle for the first few seconds that then quiets down, that's the phasers. Walk away or budget $3,000 the day you sign. Therefore, if you want a Ford of that era, the older 2-valve 4.6 is a slower, simpler, far more honest engine that just keeps running, but engines are only half the story, because the next thing I'm going to show you isn't about a motor at all. It's about a diesel that cost people their savings, and it wore a badge everybody trusted. Let me talk about diesels for a minute, because this is where the real money gets lost. Guys buy a diesel truck thinking it'll run forever. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it eats you alive. The one I refuse to have in my garage is the 6.0 liter Power Stroke diesel Ford put in the Super Duty from 2003 to 2007. Now, understand, Ford didn't even build this engine, but that's a story for a little later. Here's what I saw. This engine has head bolts that stretch under pressure and let the head lift just enough to blow the head gasket. Once that happens, coolant and combustion mix, and you're cooked. The proper fix is what we call studding the engine, replacing those weak head bolts with heavy-duty studs and machining the heads. That job, done correctly, with the EGR and oil cooler work, these almost always need at the same time, runs $4,000 to $7,000. I have handed people bills for $8,000 on these when everything went wrong at once. The oil cooler clogs, the EGR cooler cracks, the injectors fail, and it all cascades. I had a contractor bring me one, depended on that truck for his whole livelihood. It sat in my bay for 2 weeks while we studied it, and every day it sat, he wasn't earning. That truck nearly bankrupted him, and he'd bought it used specifically because somebody told him diesels are indestructible. The insider truth. These trucks flood the used market cheap for a reason. A 6.0 that hasn't been bulletproofed, that's the term, bulletproofed, is a gamble every single mile. If you're set on one, only buy one where the owner can show you receipts that the head studs, oil cooler, and EGR have already been addressed. No receipts, no deal. And if you want a diesel from that Ford family that actually earned the legend, the 7.3 liter Power Stroke that came before it up through about 2003 is the one guys hold on to until it has 500,000 miles on it. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable, because you might be sitting there thinking your brand would never do that to you. So let me show you what a truck everyone calls tough was really hiding. I want to talk about a full-size truck that marketed itself as the toughest thing on four wheels and had a transmission that couldn't take the abuse. I'm talking about certain Nissan Titan trucks, and more importantly, the Nissan Frontier and Xterra and the Pathfinder that shared a certain radiator design in roughly 2005 through 2010. Here's the failure, and it's a sneaky one. The transmission cooler on these was built into the radiator. When that internal seal fails, engine coolant and transmission fluid mix together inside. Mechanics have a nickname for the pink milkshake that comes out, and once that coolant gets into your automatic transmission, it destroys it from the inside. By the time you notice, the transmission is done. So now you're not just paying for a radiator, you're paying for a radiator and a full transmission. That combined bill lands between $3,500 and $5,000 on a lot of these. And the truly maddening part is the radiator itself is a couple $100. It's the damage it does on the way out that empties your wallet. I remember pulling the dipstick on one of these and seeing that pink froth, and I just closed my eyes because I knew the owner had no clue what was coming. She'd bought it thinking, Japanese truck, can't go wrong. Reputation is not the same thing as reliability. Not on a specific year with a specific flaw. Here's your free check. And this one you can do in your own driveway tonight. Pull your transmission dipstick if you have one and look at the fluid. It should be reddish and clear. If it looks pink, milky, or frothy like a strawberry shake, stop driving that truck. Also, pop your radiator cap when the engine is dead cold and look for an oily film on the coolant. Catching this before the mix happens can be the difference between a $200 bypass and a $5,000 disaster. That pink milkshake on the dipstick, that oily film under the radiator cap, those are the scars this video just taught you to read. But you and I both know a driveway inspection only catches what you already know to look for. That's exactly what the complete Lemon Proof bundle was built to fix. It hands you the truck buyer's specific checklist with 6 go, no-go criteria, the reliability matrix that separates the hype from the hard data, and a full rust and frame audit protocol built for trucks living in the salt belt or piling on the miles. It even shows you how to read the manufacturer's own technical service bulletins the way a safety engineer does, so you spot a systemic failure before it ever reaches your dipstick. And here's a free check you can run tonight. No book required. Pull up the free NHTSA complaint database, type in the exact truck and year you're eyeing, and watch the same failures I've been describing stack up in black and white, straight from other owners. That's the proof the dealer hopes you never look for. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. And this matters no matter when you're watching, because that next truck purchase is coming whether you're ready or not, and the repair bill is already sitting in the used market waiting for you. So keep that milkshake test in your back pocket, because now I want to show you the smart move if you find one of these already fixed the right way. Therefore, if you find one of these with the transmission cooler already bypassed and running an external cooler, that owner knew what he was doing. That's actually a good sign. But most people never knew the risk existed at all, and that's exactly the problem. Somebody profited from them not knowing. And that word profit is where this whole thing starts to turn, because the next truck shows you it wasn't an accident. It was a decision. Let me tell you about the trucks with the little turbo engines that everybody got talked into. The first generation 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 in the F-150, roughly 2011 through 2012 especially, they sold these hard, big power, better fuel economy, the future of trucks. And I'll be honest, when they run right, they move. But here's what rolled into my bay. These early ones had a problem with condensation building up inside the intercooler. On a humid day, under hard acceleration, that collected moisture would get sucked into the engine all at once, and the truck would stumble, shudder, and misfire like it was about to die. Folks would floor it to merge onto a highway, and the thing would fall on its face. That's not just annoying, that's dangerous. And then there's the timing chain. These engines are hard on timing chains, especially if the oil changes were ever stretched out. A stretched timing chain on this V6 will throw a code, run rough, and if you ignore it, it'll jump time and bend valves. A timing chain job on one of these Turbo 6s runs $2,000 to $3,000 because there's a lot of labor to get in there. Add turbo problems down the road, and you're looking at real money on an engine people bought to save money. Here's the thing that made me angry as a mechanic. They sold these as the economical, smart choice. But a naturally aspirated Vate, the old-fashioned 5.0 in that same truck, is simpler, tougher, and cheaper to own over 10 years. The complicated engine wasn't built to save you money. It was built to hit a fuel economy number on a government test so somebody could put a sticker in the window. You paid for that sticker with your repair bills. So if you're shopping these, listen for a rattle on cold start. That's the chain. And ask for oil change records like your wallet depends on it, because it does. Turbos live and die on clean oil. Now, I promised you I'd tell you who designed it this way and why, and we're getting there. But first, I need to talk to those of you who are feeling a little sick right now, because you already own one of these. Don't click away. This next part is for you specifically. If you're sitting there realizing the truck in your driveway is one I've been describing, take a breath. I'm not here to make you feel dumb. I got burned once too, years ago, on a truck I was so proud of that turned into a money pit, and nobody warned me. So let me be the guy who warns you and gives you something you can actually do this weekend without spending a fortune. First thing, no matter which truck you've got, change your oil more often than the manual says and use the exact oil weight and specification printed on your cap. I mean it. Half the catastrophic failures I've described start with dirty or wrong oil. Those collapsing lifters, those stretched timing chains, those failing cam phasers, they all live and die on oil quality. Going to a 5,000 mile change interval with full synthetic on these problem engines is the cheapest insurance you will ever buy. That's $40-$50 that protects a $4,000 repair. Second, get yourself a cheap code reader. You can get a basic one for $20-$30 or an app that pairs with a little plug-in adapter. Learn to read your own codes. When that check engine light comes on, you'll know in 2 minutes whether it's a loose gas cap or a misfire that's about to cost you an engine. Knowledge is the thing the dealer never wants you to have, because a scared owner who doesn't understand the code is an easy sell for a $2,000 repair he might not need. Third, and this is the big one for the oil burners and the transmission killers. Once a month, when the engine is stone cold, pop the hood and just look. Check your oil level, because these engines burn it between changes, and running low is what kills them. Check your coolant for any oily film. Pull that transmission dipstick and look for the pink milkshake 5 minutes a month. That's the whole cost. And it can catch every single one of the disasters I've described while it's still a small fix instead of a tow truck. Fourth, if you've got one of those problem diesels, find out today whether the known fixes have been done. Pull your service records. Call the shop that serviced it. If the head studs and coolers haven't been addressed, start saving now and drive it gently, because heat and hard pulling are what push those weak head bolts over the edge. You are not helpless here. The people who lost the most money are the ones who trusted the shine and never looked underneath. You're already ahead of them just by watching this. Now let's get back to the trucks, because there are a few more you need to see, and the villain is finally about to step into the light. Let me show you a truck that a lot of guys love that hides its worst problem behind the dashboard. Certain Ram and Dodge trucks from the late 2000s into the 2010s used an electronic module that controls a huge chunk of the truck's electrical system. When it starts to fail, you get the strangest symptoms. Wipers that turn on by themselves, doors that lock and unlock on their own, a truck that randomly won't start or dies while you're driving. Owners think they're going crazy. They chase one gremlin after another. The module is not cheap, and on some of these, it has to be programmed to the truck, which means a trip to a shop with the right equipment. You're looking at somewhere from $600 to over $1,000 once you factor in the part and the programming, and that's if you correctly diagnose it the first time. I've watched people replace batteries, alternators, and starters chasing a problem that was this module the whole time, throwing hundreds of dollars at the wrong parts. The insider tip: if you're looking at one of these trucks and the electrical behaves strangely, doors, lights, wipers, starting, anything with a mind of its own, that's a red flag worth thousands. Don't let anybody tell you it's just a loose connection. And if you own one, keep your battery terminals spotless and your battery strong, because weak voltage makes these modules act up and can push a struggling one over the edge. But here's the question that should be forming in your head right now. Why do so many of these problems come down to something added to the truck that didn't need to be there? A fuel-saving system that eats camshafts, an emission system that cooks a diesel, a complicated module that didn't exist on the trucks that ran forever. Now you're seeing it. Now let me name it. Here's the truth I've watched play out for 30 years. Almost none of these failures come from the parts that actually move your truck down the road. The engine block, the frame, the basic guts, those were mostly fine. The failures come from the stuff bolted on to satisfy somebody who was never going to drive that truck. Fuel economy targets, emissions regulations, marketing departments that needed a bigger number on the window sticker or a smaller number on the fuel economy label. The engineers knew. I've read the technical service bulletins, the internal documents where the manufacturer quietly acknowledges the exact failure, tells the dealer how to fix it under warranty, and never breathes a word of it to the guy shopping on the lot. That cam phaser rattle, there's a bulletin for it. That intercooler condensation stumble, there's a bulletin for it. That transmission killing radiator, owners screamed about it for years. The knowledge existed the whole time. It was just kept on the dealer side of the counter away from you. And that's the part that should make you angry. Not that trucks break, everything breaks eventually. It's that somebody decided the cost of that failure was your problem, not theirs, the second the warranty ran out. They built complexity you didn't ask for to hit a target you didn't care about, and then they sold you the repair on the back end. The complicated truck isn't an accident. It's a business model. So let me speed through a few more that I keep on my personal do not buy list, and then I'll give you the one that beats them all. There's the Ram 1500 with the 3.0 liter eco diesel. Sounded amazing, a diesel half-ton with great mileage. But these had serious problems with the EGR cooler and emission system, oil pump, and main bearing concerns on some. And when they go, that diesel repair bill is brutal, easily $5,000 or more on a truck a lot of people bought as a daily driver. A diesel is only worth it if you're towing heavy and keeping it a long time. As a commuter, that complexity is all risk and no reward. There's the 6.4 liter Power Stroke that Ford ran for a couple of years, 2008 and 2010. After the 6.0, they tried to fix the old problems and created new ones. Radiators, emissions, regeneration issues, and fuel dilution that could wash down the cylinders. Another diesel that looks like a deal used and bites hard. And I'll put certain smaller trucks with continuously variable transmissions on notice too. That style of transmission, the CVT, in a vehicle that gets worked hard is a weak point I see fail again and again. And replacing one can run $3,000 to $4,000. In a truck that people buy to actually haul and tow, I want a real geared automatic or a manual, not a belt and pulley setup designed for a commuter car. Every one of these follows the same pattern. Complexity, somebody added, failing on a schedule with a bill that lands on you. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And it points you straight to the answer, the one truck that refused to play the game. So here it is. The thing I've been building to after 30 years and thousands of trucks across my lifts, the one I'd bet my own money on, the one that quietly outlasts everything, is the Toyota Tundra with the 5.7 liter V8. The engine they code the 3URFE, built from about 2007 all the way through 2021. Now here's why this is the buried treasure. Everybody talks about Toyota being reliable in a vague, hand-wavy way, but look at the hard data and it stops being an opinion. In long-term studies of which vehicles actually reach 200,000 miles and beyond, and IC Cars publishes exactly this kind of analysis, the full-size Toyota truck consistently shows up with one of the highest percentages of vehicles still on the road past that mark, far above the domestic half-tons I just warned you about. We're talking about a truck where a huge share of them cross 200,000 and keep going, and plenty see 300,000. Here's the mechanic's eye reason, the part the data can't tell you, but my lift can. That 5.7 liter engine was deliberately kept simple. No fancy fuel-saving cylinder deactivation eating the camshaft, a stout timing chain that just doesn't stretch the way those others do, a conventional 6-speed automatic that isn't trying to be clever. It's not the most powerful, it's not the best on gas, and it does not win the spec sheet war on that dealer lot. And that is exactly why it wins the only war that matters, the one measured in years and miles and dollars you get to keep. Think about the journey here. The truth existed all along, sitting in the reliability data and in the memory of every honest mechanic. It got buried under marketing for flashier trucks with bigger numbers and better fuel economy stickers, because a truck that just runs forever doesn't sell you parts and it doesn't win the advertising war. One set of long-term studies kept the honest number alive, the percentage of trucks still running past 200,000 miles, and now you have it. You know the code, 3URFE, 5.7 liter. When you see that engine in a well-kept Tundra, you're not looking at the shiniest truck on the lot. You're looking at the one that'll still be in your driveway when the flashy ones are in a scrapyard. And if a full-size Toyota is out of your range, the same philosophy points you to the older 4.7 V8 Toyotas and to those simple deactivation-free domestic engines like that 4.8 liter GM Simplicity is the reliability every time. So let me leave you with what really matters here. And it isn't the engine codes. It's this: you almost handed over your hard earned money for a truck that somebody already knew was going to break, and you would have found out the expensive way on the side of a road with a bill that felt like a punch to the gut. Not anymore. You just walked off that lot with your eyes open, and that feeling, that quiet confidence that you can't be sold a lemon, that's worth more than any warranty they'll try to push on you. You're the kind of driver who refuses to be handed a story and told to smile and sign. You want the truth, even when it's ugly, because the truth is what keeps your money in your pocket and your family on the road. You already know what to do next. You know what to listen for in a cold start. You know to pull that transmission dipstick. And you know that the boring, simple truck is almost always the smart one. Now, do me a favor and tell me something in the comments. Which one of these hit closest to home for you? Was it that 5.4 Triton with the spark plugs that snap off, or the 5.3 burning a quart of oil every 750 miles? Or maybe you've got a 6.0 Power Stroke sitting in your driveway right now and you're sweating a little. Tell me what you drive, tell me the year and the engine, and tell me where in the country you're watching from. I read these and I answer. If you're staring down a specific truck this week, drop it below and let me and everybody else here weigh in before you sign anything. And if you're the kind of person who refuses to get burned, you belong with the rest of us who look under the hood before we look at the paint. Stick around, because the folks here look out for each other in a way no dealership ever will. Next time, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the used SUVs hiding transmission time bombs, including one everybody thinks is the safest family hauler on the road, and it's got a failure that'll cost you $4,000 the week after the warranty ends. You do not want to buy the wrong one before you see that. I'll have it waiting for you. Drive smart, check the oil, and don't ever trust the shine. Now, this video showed the warning signs, but I couldn't fit it all in here. Inside the Garage Bench Club, I walk you through the full list with the exact years to avoid. And if you're staring at a truck, you can ask me directly, and I answer myself, no robot. Folks just like you are already in there with me. Just point your phone at the code, cancel anytime, one click, no risk. Now that you know which trucks to steer clear of, let me help you spend wisely. I'll show you the 3 worst American trucks to avoid and the 4 best ones truly worth your money. It's starting right here.